Okay, one of the things you might need to do, I have an error in mind, is that you go to the Tools, Options, and I noticed that it wasn't terminating the command prompt, and I wasn't able to run it. So go to Options, Debugging, and you might need to do this. Actually gives you an error message. And then make sure this is selected. Automatically close the console when debugging stops. Okay? All right. I see there's a console window opening here too. Let me just close that one. Okay. So just running it, see if it still works. It looks good. Okay. Reads and everything. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to read all of the elements from the file. So I'm going to say while not file input via EOF. Okay. And just closing. Okay. So all I care about now, oh, lowercase w, all I care about now is just to read all of the data in from the file. See what I got. Okay. So read in all the items. All right. I get my AVAS looking at this here. Okay. Okay. So what we want to do is we actually want to read that we're reading them in, and then I'm just displaying it, which is fine. But what I want to do is actually come up with some counters that will actually tell me how many, keep track of or keep a tally of how many of the actual sutures failed for the different reasons. Okay. So what I'll do is I'm going to just create some other variables, and I'll just do it. I'll say pressure count, temperature count, and dwell time count. Okay. And I'll go down to here, and I'll say if we have an error in terms of temperature. So if the temperature is less than 150, so I'll say temperature is less than 150, or the temperature, oh, I'm sorry, we can actually do it. Let me do this. I'll count. So if it's less than that, or if it's is greater than 170, then we're going to have a failure where we have a temperature count failure. So I'll just say temperature. And there is one more thing I need to do, which I forgot. Temperature count plus plus. Okay? So that counts the number of that failed for this. Okay. I also, of course, need to initialize these to 0 for each of these. Okay? For each of my counters. Okay. Now, really, I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to repeat this so I'll just copy it. I'm going to repeat this for both dwell and for pressure. So temperature, so this one I'll make it pressure. And pressure is 60 to 70. So if it's less than 60, or pressure is greater than 70, then we get a pressure count error. So, or a pressure error. So I'll just add to the count for that. Okay. Next thing I want to do is a dwell time. So if the dwell time is out of the range, in our case, dwell less than 2, and or the dwell time is greater than 2.5. And I get a dwell time error. Okay. And then I'm going to do dwell time. Dwell time count. Okay. So now I'm going to count each of these. All right. So let me just look. I'll look over here at the data file. And, you know, the first one fails because it's temperature. The second one and the third one, here we can look at dwell was out of range for both of these. The pressure was actually out of range for this one. So this would actually show up twice. The next one, we see that's good, but the temperature is no good here. That's too low. And that's okay. And the third one, 61.5 is good. 160.5 is good. 1.98 is a little bit low. So dwell time is low here. And then in this one, our temperature is out of range. Okay. So it looks like they all have one failure except for this one. This one has a pressure and a dwell time failure. Okay. So we should see that show up. All right. So let's go back to the code. And what we're going to do is just see if our counters are good. So what it's going to do is see out. We'll say temperature count. And let me just make this a message, temperature count, because I'm just going to check to make sure that equals. Make sure that we get our counters are working properly, right? So this is the temperature count one. Copy here. And end line. Okay. And we'll do this for all three. Like I said, I'm just doing it like step by step. Control V, Control V. Oh. Control V. Let me do that again. Just copy it. Control copy, Control V, Control V. Okay, so this is pressure count, pressure, and then the last one is dwell time. Dwell time count. Okay, so pressure goes here, and this is dwell time. So dwell time count goes there. Okay. Temperature. Okay. All right, so let's see what we get. Let's run it. And we have 2, 2, and 3. We have 6 items, and we know that one failed for 2 different things. So that looks good. So in terms of our counters. Okay. So now what we want to do is we actually need to display the percentages. So what we can do here is we can actually do temperature. What I'll do is, we know there's 6 items, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, I'll make another counter here. I'm just going to call this one item count plus plus. Okay, so every time we read an item in, we increment that. Okay, because we'll need that when we figure out the percentages. Item count. All right. Okay. So what I want to do is here, I'm going to actually modify these. I'm going to say temperature failure percentage. Okay. And what that's going to be is going to be temperature count divided by item count. And I'll put this all in parens. And then times 100. Times 100. Okay. And we'll do the same thing for pressure failure count. Percentage, sorry. Failure percentage. I'll make it lowercase. And then the same thing for this. Dwell time failure percentage. Okay. And the same thing. We're going to do the same thing here. It's going to be divided by item count. And then multiply it times 100. Because this one actually, if you look back at the requirements, it wants percentage. Okay. And it's okay that we print a little bit extra, like I'm doing the C out right here. I could comment it out or not. Really doesn't matter. dwell time, and item count times 100. Okay? So let's go and run it. And oh, no. Something. Oh, item count. I did not go in here and set this to 0. So let me do it again. Okay. Oh, there's my percentages. And the problem here, of course, is... Well, let me close this. Open twice. Okay. So what we have here is we actually have a problem with our casting, right? We need to do a double cast. Otherwise, we're getting it. We have an integer division here. So let me cast each of these. Okay. And the last one here. Double. Okay. Now we can go ahead and run it. Okay. There's my percentages. All right. Then only one last part. Let me clean it up a little bit here. I'll say, oh, twice, equals, and equals here. And we could put another space in here if we want. Maybe look a little cleaner here. And I'll go up here and I'll just remove this. I'll just comment this out. So we don't need that to meet the requirements of this program. And we run it, and there it is. Temperature failure percentage, pressure failure percentage, 1/3, 1/3, and then the dwell time, we actually, half of them failed due to dwell time. We saw that. We saw 2 out of the 6. Okay? So that's basically it. That meets the requirements for this program.